Hi, everybody. It's Dan Cerrucci again, and this is part of our regular series of interviews that we do. And I also post them at dancerrucci.com. I'm here with Josh Aikens. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him in a second, but I want to go live on um, on Facebook and make sure that we're actually there on Facebook and that we are live on Facebook. So let me just check one more time and make sure they're picking us up. There we are. Yes. And that means we're probably live on Twitter as well. Okay. So here I am with Josh Aikens. And Josh, it's been several years since I last interviewed you. I think at that time you were just sort of getting involved in the political scene up there in northwest New Jersey. We're going to talk about this corner of the state, which is an unusual corner of the state. It's not what you think of. It's not usually what you think of when you think of New Jersey, is it, Josh?
No, actually, and I travel the country quite a bit for work. And when I tell everyone I'm from New Jersey, they instantly think of Newark. And I try to tell them like, no, there's cows, there's farms, it's tons of land up here, there's mountains, there's ski resorts. That's not New Jersey. I'm like, no, that's absolutely where I live. And then I'll show them pictures like, oh, that's beautiful. That looks like Ohio or Kentucky or somewhere Midwest that they would never even think New Jersey's like. So. It's our little bubble up here in Northwest New Jersey, and I love it. Been here my whole life.
Yes, this is where you grew up in what we call Sussex County, New Jersey. Um,
Yeah.
and it's a near and dear to your heart.
Oh, absolutely. I'm very proud to be from this area of the state. Um, a lot of my friends have moved out and moved away, and they still ask me, why do you still live up there? I said, well, now that I'm married with kids, I love raising my family up here. I couldn't really ask for a better place.
It's a very, very special part of the state. You might even say it's a very special part of the country. You're up there. You're bordered by Pennsylvania and New York, and of course, I'm down here in South Jersey, just across the Delaware River from Philadelphia. It's an entirely different situation, and I don't think people realize this about New Jersey, Josh, that we have so many different parts of the state and different environments contained within this densely populated little state.
Yeah, it is unique, right? You have, the urban areas, and then you have the beach towns, and then you have, our pocket where it's people can't really understand just how much farmland there is up here. And
And of course, and we have the Pinelands too, which is
yes, exactly as well.
a vast part of the state, and it's there's practically nothing there,
Well, you have the Jersey
it's a
Devil, of course, right?
well, we may or may not have the Jersey Devil. I don't know,
I've
but
heard that
it's
somewhere. I
just
think there's a book out
an
there.
incredible. I don't live very far from the Pinelands where I'm sitting right now, which is see, this is part of the sort of conundrum of New Jersey. I'm sitting outside. I can see the skyline of one of the largest cities in America right from where I'm sitting now, and yet in about 30, 40 minutes, I can be in the Pinelands, which is
Yeah.
totally barren, totally barren area. I could be there and it's pitch black, pitch dark right now. There I could pretty much see every star in the sky. So I don't think a lot of people realize this about New Jersey, and it's part of it. It's one of the things we love about the state, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, because you can do anything, whatever you wanted to do in this state. You know, if you wanted to go to a big city, you can go to New York, you can go to Philadelphia. Everything's drivable. I mean, even if you wanted to go down to DC, I mean, you could take a quick train ride down there, and it's everything is really
Right,
at the touch of your fingers.
right. And as they say, location, location, location. And you can
Mm,
be in New Jersey and you can live in a sort of dare I say, I don't know if I want to say bucolic, but you can live a sort of bucolic lifestyle of Josh Aikens, who's grown up in Sussex County. And we're talking about the 24th Legislative District, which is where you're going to be running for state assembly. You're going to run in the June primary. And
yeah,
the 24th Legislative District, which has been sort of reconfigured since the most recent redistricting, has 60% of your home county, Sussex County, 35% of nearby Morris County, and just 5% of Warren County. And if
yeah,
you look at the map of New Jersey, it is that top northwest corner. It's a nice, pretty large chunk. And this is a largely Republican area, which is another unusual thing in this blue state. This is
yeah.
a strongly Republican area of the state and has been for a long time, hasn't it?
Yeah, I can't remember honestly. Certainly not in my lifetime, in my 40 years, that we've ever had anything other than Republicans sitting in all three seats. Now, it's been a mix of either three from Sussex County or two from Sussex County, one from Morris County. Um, but it's always been Republican as far as I remember.
And this is a part of the state where people are, they're very independent minded, very traditional
Mhm.
minded, and they don't
Yep.
want to lose what they feel makes that part of the state unique.
Well, yeah, we consider ourselves the most conservative area in the state, and we consider this district being the most conservative district. I'm sure other districts would like to argue that, but we consider this the most conservative district, and we want to keep it that way. We don't want to become a moderate type of district. We want to continue having our conservative values represented down in Trenton as much as possible. And I feel that myself and my running mate, Jason Sarnowski from Warren County, represent that for everyone in this district.
It's safe to say that if anybody wants to win, if a Republican wants to win New Jersey statewide, and that's a very tough thing to do,
Mhm.
um, they've got to come out of your district there with a huge margin uh, in
Oh,
order
yes,
to
absolutely. Yeah.
overcome, in order to even to have any chance at all of overcoming what they're going to encounter in many of the other counties in the state. Now, we do have some strongly conservative districts down here in South Jersey that are growing redder as we speak, as you know, down here towards the Jersey Shore area. So we do have quite a few, believe it or not, red Republican areas in New Jersey, though it may not
Yeah.
often seem that way. Now, Josh, I want to try to understand um, the sort of contest that's going on here among Republicans in your district. You had the state senator, Uraho, who is resigning. He's not running for reelection. He also
Correct.
happens to be the minority leader of the Senate. And the current assemblyman Space is moving up, is going to run for Uraho's Senate seat. And there are
Mhm.
two assembly seats that are open. And
Yep.
you're running with Sinoski.
Yep.
And there's another, these people are all running as Republicans. Fantasia and Inganamort,
It's
is that how you say
it,
his name?
In Ganamore. Yep, that's correct.
They're running presumably with the support of the former Assemblyman and now Senate candidate Parker Space.
Yep,
They
they're
will
running on
have
the
his.
same ticket.
They're
They're
going to
running
run
on
on
the
the
same
same
ticket.
ticket with him.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And then there may be 2 or more other candidates, or there will be, or there won't be.
I think
On
there
the
are
Republican.
2 other candidates, at least perspective. We don't know what's going to come out in terms of who's going to submit their petition by the end of the month. But right now, I think there are
Okay.
2 other candidates that are involved in this race.
Okay.
Um,
Now, the candidates that are supported by Parker Space, don't they have a distinct advantage at this point?
I don't believe so. No. My running mate Jason Sarnowski has a wonderful track record in Warren County. He's been a commissioner freeholder. I think he's held every type of position in terms of the freehold board and the commissioner board for many years now. Myself, over the past few years, I can say that no one in terms of grassroots, or I don't even know in terms of Republican Party, has helped as many people get elected to seats as I have over the past 2 years. I've helped almost 700 people get elected to school boards across the entire state, not just up here in this top corner of New Jersey. That I'm talking from Cape May all the way up to Sussex County. So, what we bring, we feel that that's the best path forward for us. So I wouldn't say that necessarily anyone technically has an advantage at this point.
Is the Republican organization going to endorse candidates? The Republican, let's say the Republican County Committee of Sussex and Warren counties, are they going to endorse candidates?
So Sussex County is sort of unique. We don't have a line. We don't have a convention per se. So county committee members are free to go endorse whoever they want at that point. Morris County does have a convention. Their convention is scheduled for this Saturday. So we will see how that works out in terms of who will
I meant
get
to say
the
Morris
more.
County. I said Warren. Yeah, go ahead. Morris
Yeah,
County
and
does
then
have
Warren
a
County.
convention.
Warren County also has a line itself too. They have a convention. So, but Sussex is free and open. We
Well,
don't
how do your
believe in
prospects
lines.
how do your prospects look in Warren County?
I would say
I
pretty
mean,
good
in
considering that I
Morris
have
County, in Morris County.
in Morris County.
Yeah.
Fairly good, honestly. Everyone's got a lot of work to do. Everyone's got a lot of doors to knock, a lot of phone calls to make, a lot of introductions. We're talking about introducing ourselves to a few new townships that we haven't had in our district for some years now. I have the distinct advantage of knowing these communities in terms of their parental rights groups and their parental rights organizations, because I helped a lot of their board members actually get elected. So we're talking Roxbury, Mount Olive, even Chester themselves. I've helped a lot of them get their school board members, and even if they didn't come through me in terms of advice of how to get elected, they've come to me advice of how to operate their school board. So I sort of have that advantage of I've talked to a lot of the people there already. Now, talking to a lot of the county committee members, that is something that we've been working on for the past 2-3 months now.
And you were the head of a group called Arise New Jersey.
That's correct.
That was created as an answer to these woke movements in the schools and the school districts and the school board. And you worked very practically to get candidates elected to school board who would fight this movement. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think what happened was there was a lot of parents that kind of saw what was happening. They didn't like what was happening, but they didn't know how to approach it in a practical, logical sense. So, my approach to them was to not make it political. The idea behind education in terms of at least public education is to educate the kids, to make it about academics, to make it about achievement and success, not necessarily this whole social reprogramming. It's
Mhm.
sort of a weird situation that's going on, right? And it sort of morphed because of COVID and then vaccines and then schools shutting down. And now we have a learning loss situation. And then we had on top of that, the state introduced the sex ed standards. So there was a bunch of issues that sort of morphed into this big, angry, confused parental movement. And I was sitting there at that time as one of the only people who was speaking out against this stuff. So people were naturally attracted to that. And I sort of navigated them through the waters of what to expect and how to approach people in terms of just the general public, because school boards are not political. You don't have to just talk to Republicans or Democrats. You have to talk to everybody. You have to go, speak to everyone in your community, and that kind of changes the message that you need to be bringing towards them. You're going to turn people off if you're bringing just a Republican message or just a Democrat message. Your message needs to be broad and general.
Right. And so you were quite successful with that. You said you got more than
This past
600 elected.
this past year we had almost an 82% win rate. So I ended up with 550 candidates that ended up winning.
That's an incredible record in such a short time.
Well,
And I hope it's something that continues.
I hope it continues as well. Now what the objective is to help them from the legislative side, because at some point the boards will hit a ceiling towards what they can do and what they can't do. So the idea behind my race for assembly is to help them with the laws, is to help them from the legislative perspective, where maybe that voice wasn't being heard in Trenton as it was. So
right, and this is a real parental rights movement. I was on the radio here in Philadelphia this morning talking about what's happening in my own town here of Cherry Hill, where they're getting rid of any kind of dress code for students. They're allowing students to presumably dress cross-gender if they want to. They they were putting on a sort of abbreviated production of the Broadway musical Seussical in the middle school. And the musical is based on the books of Dr. Seuss, which we're all familiar with.
Yeah.
And the musical had a group of monkeys in it, dancing monkeys. Well, they took that out because they felt it would be offensive. It might presumably be offensive to African Americans. They did an online program for the parents of high school students about supporting LGBTQ plus students that had links to a gender reassignment clinic. These are really, really serious, concerning things that are going on in the schools, and it's happening very quickly. And what's happening is happening with, it seems to me, no small amount of intimidation here.
No, and there seems to be limited opposition, at least in this state, right? So that's what we were trying to build, was a coalition that would at least introduce some sort of level playing field in terms of pushing back on some of these things, and really introducing the idea that each school district should be able to control, what they want their children to be learning or not learning, not from the terms of math and science and history, but from these other social aspects. And that's why, I tried to make it about education and achievement, not these other social issues that are essentially ancillary topics that don't really. I once put it this way, what they're trying to do is force kids to think a certain way. And, my perspective and, my personal view on this stuff is kids should digest the world as the world comes to them. It's the best way for them to learn. is for them to rationalize these things that they're seeing on their own, not being
Right.
told, you must think this way, you must act this way, you must be this way.
Well,
That's not what the American society is built upon.
well, they ought to be taught how to think, not what to think. I think
Yes,
that's a good
exactly.
way of putting it. And you were on the school board in your own hometown of Lafayette. You were the president of the school board. Is that right?
I still am. Yep, I still
You
am.
still
Yep,
are the
9
president of
years.
the school board
Still
there
am.
in
Yep, that's
Lafayette.
correct.
So
Yep.
you have a little bit of awareness of this. Okay. Somebody said I should ask you about this, that there was something on YouTube that had a picture of a classroom with a rainbow LGBTQ flag on one side and a picture of kids saluting the American flag on the other. And it said, if the picture on the left is grooming, what do you call the picture on the right? And you saw this on YouTube or Twitter, and you liked it. You checked like.
I don't know off the top of my head. So I'm not really sure.
Do you believe that saluting the American flag is grooming in the same way that showing the LGBTQ flag in a classroom is grooming?
Not even remotely close. No.
Okay, then we clarify that. I didn't think that was the case. You don't believe that saluting the American flag is grooming?
Absolutely not. No, not at all.
That's saying the Pledge of Allegiance is not grooming.
No, that's not grooming at all. Okay. No.
All right.
It's not even the same. Not even the same universe.
I'm glad that we cleared that up. Now, a lot of Republicans in New Jersey are frustrated, Josh. They're fed up.
Yeah.
They're tired of losing. And they do not feel that the quote unquote establishment Republicans have necessarily served them well. That let's call them, for lack of a better term, the country club Republicans, the old line Republicans, the Republicans that don't want to rock the boat too much, Josh. How do you feel about that?
Well, I would say I'm not one of them. I don't mind rocking the boat. I think that if you remain strong on your principles and don't waver, you don't need to be questioned at all. In terms of the establishment, it really depends on who you're talking about and what you're referencing. I think there are a lot of Republicans that waver on their principles. And if they're not wavering on their principles, maybe they're compromising when a lot of the voters are tired of seeing just the Republicans compromise. You do get the perception from the outside that we are the only ones to ever compromise on our principles. And it is tiresome. And, I'm a citizen, I'm a voter here, and it is tiresome to see that we have Republicans in the state, elected officials. And again, I know that the idea is that we are a broad tent Republican Party. And I understand the perspective of that because we're outnumbered in terms of voter capacity. But I would like to see a certain set of principles and a certain set of standards that we adhere to and never come off of.
Now, one of your presumed opponents in this upcoming primary, Dawn Fantasia, you have been saying that she supported the controversial gas tax hike, the New Jersey gas tax hike.
Correct.
How did she support that? She wasn't in the state assembly or senate at the time that was voted on.
No,
how did she support that?
Yeah, I don't necessarily want to talk too much about my opponents, but I will say that everything has been recorded and addressed. She's done radio ads in the past supporting the gas tax. She's made phone calls to local voters to support the gas tax. This was back in 2016, I guess, when it was going around. But other than that, I've not heard her say that the gas tax was a bad thing. I've never heard, that issue being brought up. I never heard her come out and say, like, maybe this was a bad idea. Maybe I supported it and it was a bad idea. Never heard that. So I've heard usage tax out of her, or a usage fee being leveraged in her language now. But other than that, it's not my business how she wants to run her race. I want to run my race with my partner and focus on what we have to do.
Now, Betty Lou, I was going to ask about Betty Lou DeCroce, but before I go into that, the incumbent Senator Oraho, he voted for the gas tax hike.
Correct. Yep.
He was one of the few Republicans that voted for it. I believe most Republicans in the state legislature voted against it. But he voted for it.
Including Assemblyman at the time, Assemblyman Space.
Voted against it.
Correct.
Yes. Now you would vote against it. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Because that was something that I just thought was horrendous. The Republicans, the few Republicans, but even one was too many, who voted for the gas tax hike.
At the time, we had the ninth worst states in the country, or ninth worst roads in the country, and one of the lowest gas taxes in the country. And after that, we had one of the highest gas taxes in the country and the second worst roads in the state, or in the country. So it didn't necessarily improve the road situation. I don't know what benefits were seen out of it. I certainly drive on the roads. I know you do too. I certainly feel the tax every time I go try to buy gas. And on top of, and that is on top of the already crazy national inflation that we're feeling.
Exactly.
So I think that there's better ways to try to get to fund things, and that's what I'd like to get down to Trenton to do. I think that there's a more efficient way to do government right now, and I don't think that that's being addressed down in Trenton.
And this is your training in finance and accounting, is it not?
Correct. Yep. So I've been working in support with the Department of Army for over a decade now. And that's essentially what I do every day, all the time, is I try to find more efficient ways to be a better steward of everyone's tax dollars, including my own. So not only is it beneficial to me, it's beneficial to the rest of the country, while not hurting our armed forces. We still want to make sure that, that is being taken into consideration. And I'm very proud of everything I've done in that line of work.
Josh, if I said to you, what kind of Republican are you? How would you answer that question? What kind of Republican are you?
I'm a very conservative Republican. A couple of people have asked me in the past, like, what type of, if you were to model yourself, or if there was a Republican leader in the national stage that you would equate yourself to. I'm more of a Rand Paul type Republican. I want as less amount of government in everyone's lives. I want them out of our pockets as much as possible. I know that there are necessary taxes out there. I just don't feel that right now that's what's happening in the state. I mean, the budget, I can't even call it a budget. So the governor's spending address that he gave us the other day is just an embarrassment, and it continues to be an embarrassment, not just in the state, but across the entire country.
Mm-hmm. I always think that Rand Paul is more of a libertarian. Did you favor the legalization of marijuana in New Jersey?
So I have a personal situation with marijuana. Not me myself, but I grew up with family members that had an addiction to marijuana, and I understand the medical usage and the medical benefits from it. But for personal recreational use, I don't support that. No.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. let me ask you about the whole business of Republicans fighting one another. Uh,
Reagan's 12th, Reagan's rule, right?
yes, thou shalt not speak ill of another Republican. That was Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
Um, now, in your part of the state, they're really fighting over something substantial because presumably whoever wins the Republican primary is going to be elected. It's a Republican area. But in so many other parts of the state, I see Republicans basically fighting over who will get the right to lose in the end. To me, this
Yeah.
is madness.
Well, this being my first primary, this is quite interesting. I think that there was an agreement to not attack each other, at least on a personal level, and to address
Mhm.
issues. And if we are addressing issues, then technically you're not attacking someone. And that's where we try to stay. If we're going to hit someone in terms of campaign attacks, it's going to be on their issues and their positions of where they are, not who they are as people or individuals. That I don't want to see, because in the end, if it's not myself, one, I would be sad, I'd be upset, but I want to make sure that there is a Republican still sitting in that seat. I don't want a Democrat to holding a seat in the 24th district at all.
So you will support the Republican nominee, whoever that may be.
I will support them. Yes, I will vote for them.
And so, what convinced you to make this race, Josh?
Well, honestly, if the assemblymen that were sitting there were rerunning, I wouldn't have even considered this, because I think that they were doing a decent job. I have a lot of respect for what they've been doing. It's not easy to drive from Sussex County down to Trenton. You know that it's not a short drive.
Oh, it's not.
And then to go down there and get beat up every single time you go down there, it wears on you. And I've talked to past legislators as well, Allison Littell. I've talked to Gail Phoebus about their time down there, and they told me that you're absolutely crazy for doing this. Why do you want to do this? And honestly, I can't tell you what is driving me for doing this, other than I want to do a good job. I have something inside me that's saying that this is the time to do this. And right now, with all the parents behind me in this state, I couldn't turn down this opportunity to give it my best shot to do this.
You've always had a sense of civic duty, Josh.
Yeah. Yes, honestly, I have. In fact, one of the reasons why I chose the company that I work for now is because we do mission work every year. We go somewhere and we do mission work. So I've been in the poorest parts of Peru. I've been in the poorest parts of Jamaica, Ireland. I've done Habitat for Humanity in Los Angeles and New York City. I've built halfway homes for battered women in New Orleans. I just love doing all that stuff. I've done fundraisers for the county food bank. So a lot of these things, I really just want people engaged more in their local community, and giving back to my community is the only way I know how. It's the only thing I've ever known in my entire life. And now that I've
So you actually grew up with that. You grew up, was that a value that was
yeah,
instilled
well,
in you from a young age?
yeah, no, I was in scouts when I was younger, and we did clean communities when we were younger as well. And it's just something I've always I mean, why wouldn't you want to give back to the community that's given you so much? I mean, I fasten my life is based upon the community around me. It's a accumulation of all the lives that have come in and out of my life. And it's all from Sussex County. It's all from this 24th district. It's everything. And I want to make sure that I represent every single one of them. And I feel like I am one of the few people that can do that.
And you're getting around and meeting a lot of people, doing a lot of what we call retail politics right now.
Yes. You and I were talking before. it is interesting. I'm getting to speak to a lot of people I wouldn't otherwise have met before, and it's very refreshing to hear their perspective. And they may have a different view of why things are the way they are in their area, and it is neat to hear, because you get caught up, especially in this day and age on social media. We get caught up in our own little silos, and we find our own niche group, and that group continues to feed the thoughts that you already you knew they were going to be your thoughts. You knew they were going to be their thoughts, because that's how you came together. So now when you branch yourself out, you kind of get a different perspective of where people are, and what they're hearing, and what they're seeing and experiencing. And it's a refreshing experience, honestly. I do love it.
Well, I just want to say in concluding this chat, Josh, we've known each other for a few years. It's been a while since I had a chance to talk to you, but I want to tell the viewers and listeners that Josh Aikens gives me a lot of hope for the future. He gives me a lot of hope for the future of New Jersey. He gives me a lot of hope for the future of the Republican Party, for the future of our country, to see a community-oriented, committed, relatively young person,
Relatively youngish. I say youngish.
relatively youngish, and
Yes.
uh, jump into something like this and be involved. You strike me as a very sensible, a level-headed person who's able to look at things clearly with a good heart. This is what I see, Josh.
I
And
thank you.
and I and notice also, folks, notice also he's not full of himself, um, which makes me wonder, is he going to succeed in political world, which which is full of
It's
so many enormous egos, so many enormous egos. But I have a hunch that you, Josh Aikens, are the real deal.
I thank you so much, Dan. I I I don't have any other words right now other than thank you so much. I appreciate what you're saying. I hope you're right in terms of my success. Um, when it comes to being egotistical, I don't find that I'm egotistical, because I can make fun of myself, at least, and it's my approach. If you can't make fun of yourself, who can you make fun of?
That's that's a very that's a very important quality and characteristic to have, and I wish that it was more common among politicians and so-called leaders. Okay,
It's out there. It's
and
out there. I'm telling you. With school boards and the parents that I've seen, there's going to be they want to talk about how there was no red wave. I saw a red wave last year. It was at the school board level, and those are going to be your next level leaders. Those people are going to
Mhm.
find their footing in their community. They're going to find their voice on the board, and they're going to lead themselves into higher level seats. And that's my
and
my
you
hope and my wish for all of them.
you're seeing this at the grassroots level.
Yep,
And
100%.
you said a lot of this came from the fact that when the kids were in lockdown, the parents began to see what was actually happening in the schools, because the kids were doing it on Zoom at home, and the parents saw it firsthand. And this is what activated them, right?
It did, and really, what the problem was, that no one was engaged civically at all. I mean,
Hmm.
you go around 20, 30 years ago, everyone knew their neighbors, right? You knew your neighbors' names, you knew your neighbors' kids, you knew their family, husbands, wives, you knew their story. Nowadays, no one knows each other, and yet we're more connected to the world than we have ever been before. And
Right.
my hope and wish was for people to just know what's going on in their own town. And once they learned that things weren't right in their town, or things weren't going as well as they thought they were in their own town, maybe they would springboard to their county, maybe they'd springboard to their district or their state. and start to use that energy to do, to provide better service for the public.
I can't think of a time in my lifetime, which is not a short time, I can't think of a time when it's ever been more important and when the involvement of people like you, Josh, have ever been more important. So we will end it there, and I wish you the best.
Wonderful.
And I thank you for taking time out of what I know is a busy schedule. You probably have had a long day and taking time to be with us tonight.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.